The FBI is doing an investigation on the assassination attempt. Do you trust the Bureau?
I don't trust the Bureau leadership, but I certainly think there are a lot of good field agents, guys on the ground. But what the hell was going on? How was that guy ever allowed to be there in the first place? Because I think somebody, whether it's higher up or somebody else involved, really did screw up.
There's some things going on with our government that we have to really worry about. Did we have enough people? Why didn't we have enough people? Somebody said that a lot of people were put on Biden's detail. The problem is Biden doesn't draw anybody. He draws flies.
I hope that Trump fully understands what's going on here. I hope that Trump fully understands what happened at his rally last Saturday. Because I've listened to everything Trump has said since then, and it doesn't seem, part of me feels like he doesn't fully grasp what's going on here. But then again, I think we all have to understand that Trump right now is in a very interesting position. A position that I'm glad I'm not in and none of you all would want to be in either. You see, Trump can't come out and blatantly say what he wants to say right now because at the end of the day, he still has to depend on the Secret Service to protect him moving forward. So he can't come out here and just blast the Secret Service. He can't just come out here and expose everything or say how he truly feels because he has to think about the future. You know, even if he doesn't become president again, these are the agencies that are tasked with protecting him and his family. So he's in an interesting position where obviously everything looks fishy right now, but he doesn't want to say it too much because he doesn't want them to try it again, or he doesn't want to put a bad taste in the mouth of people who are supposed to be protecting him with their lives. You know, it's like, hey, these guys, you know, jumped in front of me while bullets were flying. I don't want to criticize them, even though it looks like I was kind of set up. You know what I mean? But Trump has to be careful, you know, with what he says right now. But also, you know, part of me is like, I'm concerned because, you know, back the blue. That's a real talking point that's out there. Back the blue, no matter who. And you have a lot of people who get really upset when you criticize law enforcement at all. And a lot of Trump's voter base, they're those people back the blue, no matter who. And they get mad when you criticize law enforcement. But law enforcement needs to be criticized. You see, the facts are, Trump and Trump's people have been requesting more security for years. I believe for at least 2 years, they've been requesting more security, and their requests have been denied. And when it comes to that Trump rally that took place last Saturday where this tragedy occurred, it just so happens that specifically at this rally, there were a lot of people who were working security detail that had no business being there. You see, we were under the impression that most of these people we were seeing on our TV screens were Secret Service agents. Well, it turns out a lot of them aren't even in the Secret Service. And some of the ones that were in the Secret Service, it was their first day on the job for some of them. And for others, they were inexperienced. They were unqualified. They hadn't had, you know, enough training on the ground yet. But it just so happens that specifically on this date, when a crazed madman had a plan to take out Trump, it just so happens that the security was all out of whack. It's just a coincidence that Jill Biden had to be in town at the same time, so they had to send a lot of Secret Service to go protect her. Meanwhile, she's only speaking in front of like a dozen people, whereas we have Trump in front of thousands of people, and they're sending random people to protect him. Just random people. But Trump rallies are usually very secure. They're usually very safe. The security is usually very tight. But on the one Saturday, when it just so happens that there's someone out there with a plan to take out Donald Trump, it just so happens that they decide, you know what, we don't need tight security today. All of the other Trump rallies, we need tight security. But this Saturday, no, this Saturday, we're going to drop the ball. This Saturday, we're going to put out fake Secret Service agents. We're going to not do our job at all. And it just so happens to link up with the exact date that a crazy person that was in the crowd trying to take out Donald Trump. Now that gives me the impression, and I'm not here to spread conspiracies, I'm just here to be completely honest. That gives me the impression that this was an inside job. That gives me the impression that there was some type of knowledge there that something was going to happen. Therefore, y'all turned the blind eye. Therefore, y'all sent a bunch of incompetent people to be in charge of that rally because y'all probably caught wind that something bad was going to happen at that rally. Why was the security so different than usual? And I even brought you all a story over on my main channel where 2 cops have been fired or let go, placed on leave, because they were not authorized at all to be at the Donald Trump rally, yet they went and they worked at the rally. They were allowed right next to Donald Trump, even though they had no clearance or authorization to be there. So it appears that a random person could have probably just walked up there and pretended to be Secret Service, and they would have let it go down. Because they let everything else happen. They watched Thomas Matthew Crooks. They watched him plan everything out right there on site with his rangefinder, climbing on the building. They watched it all. And they turned a blind eye, or they just simply let it happen. I do not think it's a coincidence that at this one Trump rally, out of the hundreds of Trump rallies we've seen take place, the one day that there's a plan to take Donald Trump out is the one day that the Secret Service, the FBI, and local law enforcement seem to just forget how to secure an area, how to secure the area around Donald Trump. And I talked about this over on my new channel, Political Cinema. Please go subscribe over there if you haven't already. But the security at the site of this Trump rally, they have tighter security now than they did during the rally. So that lets you know they're more concerned about hiding the truth than they were about protecting Donald Trump. We have U.S. senators that have even gone to the site and they got personally kicked out by the FBI. They do not want people snooping around. They do not want people asking questions or digging because they know that their story, the official narrative, you could poke holes all the way through it. The fact that Secret Service knew. This wasn't a big secret. This wasn't something that just happened out of nowhere. The Secret Service knew that this guy was there for hours. They even knew that he was on the roof. The Secret Service knew well before they allowed Donald Trump to take the stage, but they still let him take the stage anyway. Why do you think they did that?
No one told you not to take the stage?
No, nobody mentioned it. Nobody said there was a problem. And I would have waited for 15. They could have said, let's wait for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, something. Nobody said, I think that was a mistake. How did somebody get on that roof? And why wasn't he reported? Because people saw that he was on the roof. You had Trumpers screaming. The woman in the red shirt, she was screaming, there's a man on the roof. And then other people said, there's a man on the roof who's got a gun. And that was quite a bit before I walked onto the stage. So you would have thought somebody would have done something about it.
Exactly. They knew. Regardless of what your theory is, regardless of what you think took place last Saturday, we know for a fact that they knew that there was a threat in the crowd. All they had to do was hold Donald Trump back for 5 or 10 minutes as they went and took down Thomas Matthew Crooks. They already identified him as acting suspiciously. Everyone there knew that he was on top of the building. Everyone knew. But they still, we're going to let Donald Trump take the stage. Never mind the guy over there, who's armed on top of the roof, very clearly about to try to take out Donald Trump. We're not going to focus on that. We're going to allow Donald Trump to take the stage. And it's confirmed. People need to understand because you get your information from all over the place. It's hard to know what's real and what's fake. People need to understand one thing, that the Secret Service knew that Thomas Matthew Crooks was there. They knew for hours, okay? They didn't know exactly what he was doing. He wasn't on top of the building for hours, but they knew for hours that he was there acting suspiciously. And for about over 20 minutes, they knew that he was on top of the building. And even all the way down to the agents that are right there next to Trump, they knew at the very least 10 to 15 minutes in advance that there was someone out there posing a threat. All they had to do was stop Donald Trump from taking that stage. And then we would be having a totally different conversation right now. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. And Corey would still be alive. Our entire country would be in an entirely different place right now. Joe Biden would probably still be in the election, maybe. Who knows? But all they had to do was delay the speech for a minute, get rid of the threat. They chose not to, and they chose not to for a reason, folks. And I think we know what that reason is without me having to say it here. Read between the lines, put two and two together. You are going to need to be able to read between the lines and put two and two together to survive in America in the coming future. Because if you think the last couple of weeks have been crazy, you haven't seen anything yet, ladies and gentlemen. The show has just begun. And they're going to try to take out Trump again. And the Lord knows what's going to happen leading up to the election. But as of right now, I'm glad that Donald Trump is questioning things. But he doesn't really have time to question things and look into things, like we do. Because he's out there, doing rallies still, running for election still. So in many ways, we can't trust, anyone who's doing the official investigation. We can't trust them. They're probably behind the attempt themselves. So we really have to rely on each other to get to the truth of what happened. But that's going to be very hard because the news cycle is going to be insane. They're going to make sure that a lot of crazy things happen over the next coming weeks so we forget all about what happened with Donald Trump. They don't want us digging there. Now they want us focused on Joe Biden stepping out of the election. And then next week they'll have another news story and another gigantic news story. And before you know it, what happened to Trump, it will be buried. And that's what they want. But for now, let me know your thoughts about this down below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell. And I'll be talking to you all very soon in the next video.